Okay, let's call to order the November 1st, 2022 Village Board meeting. This meeting is being conducted both in person and remotely. For the record, this is Village President Mark Zula, and I am currently at the regular meeting location, Roscoe Village Hall. Provisions have been made to allow elected officials, village staff, and members of the public to participate remotely if necessary. As always, any action taken tonight will be conducted by roll call vote. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. I will now ask all those present to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Given the audio related issues, we will ask everyone participating remotely to please keep their microphone on mute during the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3, roll call. Clerk, would you please call the roll, and will those trustees join us remotely please acknowledge that you can hear the proceeding?
Gustafson. Here. Teddy. Here. Flock.
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
King.
Here, and I can hear you.
Elko.
Here. Okay. Item 4, public comment. Are any members of the public wishing to be heard under public comment this evening? If there are any members of the public logged into the meeting this evening and wish to speak, please unmute your phone or microphone. State your name and address, and as always, limit your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone on the floor that would like to do public comment? No? Okay, Joe, do we have anyone with a hand raised?
No, we do not.
Okay, and if you are out there, do we have anyone on at all?
No.
No, we don't. If you are out there, you can hit *6 and it'll raise your hand. Okay, so public comment is now gone. Item 5, President's Report. We have a couple of guests joining us this evening. First off, I would like to welcome Ms. Wendy Unger from Baker Tilly. Wendy led the audit team and will be providing a summary of the findings of the 2021 fiscal year. Ms. Unger, are you on?
I am.
The stage is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate being invited to attend the meeting tonight. You should have available to you a couple page handout, which I will use to summarize the 2 documents that have been issued as part of the audit process. So I will go through this information at a relatively high level. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have as I go through. I'd be happy to try to address those. So the objective of the 2021 audit was to render an opinion on the financial statements for the village. We've done that. Included within your audited financial statements is our audit opinion. It follows immediately after the table of contents. The opinion that we've issued is a clean, unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance that you can obtain from us as your auditors. That clean, unmodified opinion means a couple different things. It means that 1, the financial information that's contained within your audited statements is believed to be materially accurate, that the financial statements have all the required disclosures that are required to be included under the auditing standards, that generally accepted accounting principles have been adhered to, and that accounting principles have been consistently applied from year to year. That point means that there were no new governmental accounting standards or GASBs that were effective for implementation for the village for 2021. In a moment, we will speak about one that is effective for 2022 though. But again, clean, unmodified opinion, very positive results from an opinion standpoint. Also in a moment, I'll switch over and go through some very high level financial information. But before I do that, just want to quickly touch on the other report that we issue as part of the audit process. That's the reporting and insights document. We utilize that document for a couple different purposes. It allows us to communicate any comments, recommendations that may come up as part of the audit process. Also allows us to have some of our standard and customary communication that we need to have with you under our standards, and also allows us to communicate anything that might be applicable to any future audits. That report is very similar to what it's been in the past. Very happy to say there were no material weaknesses noted within your internal control structures. So nothing noted during the testing of internal controls over your transaction cycles. There were no material audit journal entries that were found as part of the audit. So very favorable results from that standpoint. As I noted, the standard and customary information that's included in that report is, again, just that. Nothing I need to draw your attention to. in that section of the report. I will mention there is a section in there that talks about the new governmental accounting standard that is effective for all governmental entities, effective actually as of June 30th, year ends. So working through that with those type of entities now, but it will be effective for the village for the 2022 year end. GASB 87 is the new standard, and that is how leases are accounted for. There will be some change in presentation and change on how those are shown. I know the village does have some lease transactions, so those will need to be evaluated. I have provided management with some tools and templates to use and starting to do that, but we'll definitely be working through that process with them in the upcoming months to make sure that that standard is ready to be implemented as needed. Going to the next page of the handout, again, this is where I've highlighted some very high level financial information. So going to go through the various funds of the village, again, at a relatively high level. So please feel free to ask any questions as I go through. On the very first column that I presented here is the village's general fund. You'll note that underneath that top table, there is a budget to actual table. So that is what I will use to highlight some of the activity of the general fund. You'll note that the very first column that I've presented is the final budget. The second column is your actual results, with the third column being your variance between the two. Looking at your revenue category, $7 million of actual revenue comparing to a $5.3 million budget. You were over budget in revenue by 1.7 million. So very favorable results. The main reasons for that are your sales tax, your state income taxes. That's roughly 1.3 million of that. You also had video game fees that came in over budget, $130,000. And then your legal settlement was over budget by $50,000. Expenditures, likewise, ended the year favorably. You were under budget by 154,000 within your general fund. The largest piece of that is your legal fees, came in $65,000 under budget. And then the remaining portion is some fluctuation, again, in your lease payments between what you budgeted for and what was actually paid. So overall, when you put together the 2021 budget, you budgeted to use roughly 640,000 of fund balance. You actually added 1.2 million. So you had a positive swing in fund balance of 1.8 million, ending the year with almost 5.7 million of fund balance in your general fund. Very solid financial position. If we go back up to that top table, then there's three pieces to that fund balance. There's $146,000 of that, which is committed. Those are monies that have been earmarked for franchise and right-of-way agreements. So those monies are set aside per se within your fund balance category. You had 3.4, almost $3.5 million of assigned. That's your fund balance reserve money that you set aside, which is roughly 50% of your operating expenditures or budgeted expenditures. And then the remaining balance, $2 million, is your unassigned working capital contingency. That's roughly 33% of your operating budget. So again, very solid position within your general fund. Your next column is your motor fuel tax fund, $691,000 of revenue. Fuel tax was up roughly $60,000 over budget, $388,000 of expenditures, mainly in the engineering area. Those monies actually came in less than expected as the project was not completely spent down. So overall, that fund added $303,000 to fund balance when it budgeted to add roughly $172,000. So again, favorable results within that fund, ending the year at almost $1.3 million of restricted fund balance. The next column is your capital project fund. No revenue, well, there is a revenue source, $1,083,000. Those are monies that come in out of your general fund. So the general fund transfers money into that fund. You spent $848,000 on various project costs. That is roughly $200,000 under budget. Some of those projects were not completed during 2021, and therefore that full amount of budgeted funds was not needed or used at this point. That fund added $234,000 to fund balance and ended the year at $619,000 of fund balance. Just want to mention to remind management and the board that included in this capital project fund is your ARPA money that you received during 2021, but because it was not spent, it is not in fund balance. It's currently sitting on your balance sheet as an asset and a related deferred revenue. You'll recognize the revenue as you spend it down. It was not spent in 21, and therefore it is not in fund balance. So that's another $715,000 of cash and revenue you'll recognize in 2022 or in whatever year you spend those monies. The last column here is titled non-major funds, and these are the remaining 3 funds of the village. This is your street and bridge fund, your tax incremental financing fund, and then your debt service fund. Those 3 funds combined had $172,000 of revenue, $383,000 of expenditures. The most of that expense is what you paid in principal and interest out of your debt service fund. Those funds in total added $25,000 to fund balance, ended the year at $590,000 of fund balance. Most of the money within that, those 3 funds is restricted, which would be for debt service or for your street and bridge fund. The TIF is still, in a deficit position of $25,000, but again, moved in a positive direction in 2021, adding a positive $13,000 to fund balance. So the deficit decreased in that fund during 2021. On the last page of the handout, the last piece of information I've included to present this evening is just a highlight of the long-term obligations of the village. There's extensive footnotes in your audited financial statements that detail this activity out in much more detail, shows amortization schedules for the long-term, the alternative revenue bonds. But just a couple items to note here. You'll note the village ended the year $5.8 million of long-term obligations. As you can see, the largest portion of that is the police pension liability at $3.5 million. That liability did, however, see a decrease of roughly $119,000 over the previous year. The revenue bonds at $1.88 million, that's down $335,000 over the previous year, and that's just due to the normal and customary pay down of the debt obligation. That debt is due and payable through 2027. There's some unamortized bond premium that gets amortized over the life of the bond. And then your compensated absences were $343,000, very consistent with the previous year. Not a lot of fluctuation in that account. What was added was used. So again, not a significant difference there. In the very bottom paragraph of that last page, I do include my email address and my direct line. Happy to talk through this information in more detail with any of you to explain our audit process. If you do have any thoughts or comments or concerns, please feel free to reach out. But at this point, that is what I have prepared, but happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Unger. That was very, very well done, very well received. Does anybody have any questions for Wendy? Please, so thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a great night.
You as well. Be safe. We also have this evening under my president's report, we have Miss Mary Maddox. Mary is one of the Village of Roscoe appointees to the State Line Mass Transit District Board. And with Jim Blevins as well is also on the board with her. By all means, please, if you could come up to the podium and let us know what's going on with Mass Transit.
Yes. Sharon, our executive director, did forward our annual budget. Scott, did you receive that? In our audit that we received. As Scott said, as Mark said, my name is Mary, and I am one of the representatives for Roscoe on the State Line Mass Transit District Board of Trustees. I would like to share some of our rides that we have provided for the people who live here in the Village of Roscoe. These numbers only reflect the origin of the ride. So if somebody lives in Rockton and came into Roscoe, for instance, came into like Schnucks or anything here, that's not counted in the rides. That the rides are only counted if they start in Roscoe, they could end in Roscoe or they could end in Rockton, but those are the rides that we count. And that's just how the system works. So for fiscal year 21, we had 2,461 half fare rides and 1,461 full fare rides for a total of 3,924. For fiscal year 22, we had 2,984 half fare rides and 1,495 full fare rides for a total of 4,479. It's an increase about 14.14% year over year, which is great. And the first full year that SMD started in fiscal year 2009, Roscoe had a total of 1,205 rides. So as you see, we've pretty much increased since our inception. The total rides for all the communities here in the state line in fiscal year 21 was 17,672. And then for fiscal year 22 was 19,516, an increase of over 10%. The first year that SMTD was formed, the amount agreed upon to run SMTD from each community was $35,000. The second year, we were able to lower that to $25,000, and that has remained at that level since 2010. And I just want to say on a personal note, I do have a niece that lives here in Roscoe. Years ago, she was diagnosed with an eye disease, and unfortunately, she cannot drive. But she still wants to be independent, and she doesn't like to rely. Her husband works full-time, of course. So she uses SMTD regularly. I don't know if anybody's saw our SMTD bus at SNH lawn, or not lawn care, nursery. Thank you. Because she works there part-time. So she's able to get there through SMTD. Also, she goes to the dentist here. And so it provides a great service. I'm just giving you an example that I know somebody personally, that's a family member that utilizes our services. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So we do want to thank the Village of Roscoe for your continued support to meet the needs of the transit-dependent citizens in our area. And remember, we are here to get you there.
Well, that's a great slogan. Absolutely. Well, Mary, we as a board really thank you for stepping up and being a part of that board and executing what you just did this evening and keeping a good close eye on everything. And a little personal note, that always helps all of us.
Yes.
Have a little bit better knowledge of exactly what's what.
Absolutely.
What I mean? So appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one thing, and really probably still in your thunder, but I want to make sure the board acknowledges and thanks SMPD, and I know it was Trustee Petty's request that was moved forward, but your adoption of
Oh, yes.
subsidized
Absolutely.
fares for
Subsidizing the
veterans.
fares for the veterans.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Apologize for that.
Started July 1st.
Thank you.
Has it been used?
I do believe there has been at least one veteran that has used it correctly.
That's good.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you again for all that you do. Item 6, Steve, I believe you're up. Can you please give us the financial report?
Sure.
Thank you.
Those submitted for approval tonight are expenditures per list of $136,397. We have payroll expenses of $89,196, meaning cash on hand after payment of the bills of $9,503,182. We have no motor fuel expenses tonight, and the cash on hand in the motor fuel fund is $1,510,617.
Thank you, sir. Can I have a motion to pay the bills?
So moved.
First by Michael Dunn. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stacy Malaco. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Petty,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Flock,
Yes.
Malco,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 6-0. Steve, I also think you have the outlook for the year, the date numbers as well.
Yes, I put the year-to-date report out there. It's for the 9 months ended September 30th. And revenues continue to be strong. It looks like we're going to finish the year about 1.5 million over what we had budgeted. So it's kind of a continuation of what Wendy was talking about for last year.
Sure.
Sales tax is probably going to finish about 250,000 over budget, and income tax about 400,000. Income tax has been the real surprise. You know, this, as far as expenditures go, payroll, salary and benefits is under budget by about 2.5% now. I think we've got a couple of open positions, which is contributing to that right now. But it looks like with the revenues, having a surplus of about 1.5 million, it will pretty much erase the deficit that we had budgeted for this year. So that's
Excellent.
kind of good.
Appreciate that. Anyone got any questions for Steve? Thanks for all you do, Steve. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item 7, consent agenda. 7.1, approval of minutes from the October 18, 2022 village board meeting. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
First by Anthony King. Can I have a second? Second by Stacy Malico. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Petty. Yes. Gustafson. Yes. Swap.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Item 8, motion and resolutions, final action. 8.1, approval of resolution 2022-R68, approving the final plat number 1 of Villas of Rose Way. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. First by Justin Platt. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anthony King. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Gustafson. Yes. Block.
Yes.
Petty. Yes. Keen,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Dunn.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. 8.2, approval of resolution 2022-R69, establishing the estimated tax levy for tax year of 2022. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
First by Stacy Malico. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Justin Platt. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Malaco,
Yes.
Petty. No. Dunn,
Yes.
Keen,
Yes.
Block,
Yes.
Gustafson.
No.
Motion carries 4-2. 8.3, approval of resolution 2022-R70, approving entering into an agreement with Premier Technologies Incorporated for professional information technology consulting services for 2023. Is there a motion to approve? So moved. First by Justin Platt. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Anthony King. Any discussion?
What was the dollar amount of this?
Scott?
36?
2,700 a month.
Which comes out pretty close to 36,000 a year.
Yeah, it's 32, but there's also, well, 32 something, but then there's a $4,000 initial onboarding. So there's a one-time $4,000 process. And then the 2,700 a month after that.
Any other questions?
And they could start when?
We're gonna start they do immediately. The answer, we'll execute an agreement right away and get him started. He does an audit first. The audit will be completed by the end of the month. That will then frame recommendations for immediate actions. Consolidating servers, looking like right away as we're becoming painfully aware with the door open. We'll be making modifications to our access control. But the process starts with an audit. It'll occur through the month of November, and then
I think we all
implementation in
realized
December.
that we needed this
Yeah,
months ago. So is there any way to kind of encourage him to get us on the schedule, expedite? I mean, it's not really his problem that we've kind of lagged
well,
getting this done,
it's not
but
100. There were questions that needed to be answered. There was clarity that needed to be brought to the table.
Yes.
This has not just been him sitting waiting, but
It's a new mindset of how IT is going to work
It
here,
is.
so that's sort of the difference too.
we spent a lot.
cultural differences. Pretty
Um,
good.
it's not as cultural differences, it's just different philosophy of
Yeah.
how they manage it.
Okay, and I know we can address this in the budget, but I did see in the budget, State Line Technologies also has a line item. So are we going to be doing both, or is this firm going to be taking over what State Line?
They will be taking over what State Line.
Okay, so they will be hosting us as well,
The backups,
the backups.
They will.
likely, yes.
But please note that is not in this number. That number is not known yet. That has not been proposed. We currently pay, so the 2,700 a month you're paying now is comparable to the $1,800 a month invoice that was just IT services from State Line. It is more expensive. We feel that we pay a separate invoice. It's about $900 a month, just roughly. That is our backup and disaster recovery. And the gentleman, the owner of Premier, suspects through some economizing of our environment, that he will be able to lower that dollar amount, but it will be in addition. A separate thing that'll be brought to you as a separate dollar amount once we have it, and maybe we'll know that after.
We'll know after the audit.
There will be no more State Line. Once we've.
Okay.
Any other questions? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Gustafson,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Block,
Yes.
Dunn,
Yes.
Malaco,
Yes.
Teddy.
Yes.
I just want to add that for the purposes of the IT consulting line items that are in the budget, they already reflected the Premier numbers, not the State Line numbers. So you know that it's been accounted for.
Cool. Thank you.
Well, excuse me 1 second. In the breakout,
Mhm.
though, in the first draft, there was an item for State Line.
And I failed to edit the name
Oh,
of the vendor,
okay,
but the dollar amount has been correct.
okay.
Good catch.
Okay. Item 9, new business. Scott, I know you have a few things you want to go over for new business. Go ahead, please.
You know what, I'm looking at it right now, and on one of the pages I edited from State Line to Premier, and the other one I failed to, so thank you for catching that. One, under new business, I think it's new-ish, but the board last year at this time approved a $250 per employee retention bonus, is what we ended up calling it. It was in a line item in the budgets that was approved. We said that it would be in the second pay cycle of November, which we are sneaking up upon. And I just, Ann can jump in if she wants, but I'm kind of asking on Ann's behalf as to how the board wishes to see that handled. I think the biggest question first is what Sharon and I quite recall whether the 250 was supposed to be net or gross. Is it a $250 check that then has all the deductions taken out of it? Or is it, are we to structure this so that the check received by the employee is $250?
The second version. I believe that's what we had our conversation about. And that is that everyone would end up with a $250 bonus after any taxes or anything. That's what I
all heads. Now, can I, or is that?
That's what I recall.
I don't remember the conversation,
Yeah.
one way or the other about that. What's the difference in cost? Jennifer?
Not much. Well, I mean, there's a
And
lot,
this,
but
this,
It depends on how much each person is paying in federal and state taxes. It also would then include the employee's portion of IMRF because everything has to be reported to IMRF. So that would be another 4.5%. So there's really no,
clear away.
yeah, there's no formula for everyone. Everyone will be different based on if they're married, single, all that stuff. So.
just at face value, I would err on the side of taking all of the deductions and giving a person the check based on the balance, because at the end of the year, when they do their individual income tax reporting, they're going to be affected. So
Well,
just
no,
withhold it.
Carol, I think you might be just a little misunderstood. What we're saying is that they would end up with $250 after the taxes and stuff are taken out, just so you know. So it's not we're not giving it to them where they have to pay taxes. That's going to be done.
I thought the retention was, everyone gets 250 period, and based on 250, as Ann said, whatever tax bracket they're in, we make all those deductions. So out of 250, maybe somebody gets 125, or maybe somebody else gets 175, or whatever. I'm saying I would rather see that, because when somebody does the reporting, they're going to do their individual income taxes. They're going to owe it anyway. So if we withhold it from them, it's a little less.
We were gonna withhold it for sure. The
Yeah.
question though is, do you start at 250 for every employee and take out the necessary deductions exactly as identified, and maybe the net bonus, the net check is $175 or $160?
And I recall the
As-
conversation being that we wanted the bonus to be at $250.
Which would mean that the initial check is higher. We have to figure out how much we take out
And
as
that's
a
on
result.
hand. She's gonna have to do the math on everybody individually.
Correct.
Yes.
I would
That's-
just ask if Steve had anything to add to this,
Please.
if I'm missing anything.
By all means, Steve. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Excellent. I like it when he says no.
That's correct.
So.
Does that mean you're not gonna help me gross up checks, Steve?
He likes doing that. So I mean, the answer to the question is, I don't know, do you want to do a straw poll or?
That's what I remember.
That's what I recall. That's what I remember it being.
It was a while ago, but I thought that's what our intent was.
I thought so too, but I wasn't gonna give that instruction without being sure.
So I would say yes to that. Stacy,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Carol,
250. Someone gets 400 and ends up with 250 after we do all of the
Correct.
deductions. No.
okay, that's a no for Carol. Anthony,
Yeah, I vote to gross it up and have a net of 250.
okay, thank you. So that'd be 5-1 or 6-1.
All right, thanks. And then, as I've hinted at this in the past, and I want to bring it up again, I want us to talk about our reserve policy. And right now, the reserve policy is to essentially have a fund balance at the start of the year equal to 50% of the projected revenues, or excuse me, the projected expenditures for the year to come. So you look at how much money we're going to spend in the year to come and say that we want to start the year with a fund balance equal to 50% of that 6 months. It's a misnomer to say 6 months because we don't spend money evenly across every single month, but 50% of the expenditures. We have found ourselves in the past couple of years, as you all know, to have been in a strong position, both with respect to a steady flow of revenues, some other funding that has come in at state and federal levels in the form of COVID relief or COVID interruption related programs. We also tightened our belt a lot in 2020 and cut a lot of projects and reduced our expenditures in 2020 in anticipation of revenues dropping, and they really didn't do that. We find ourselves in a fortunate position right now of being very strong, having a strong fund balance. In an effort to spend that money on the people, in an effort to spend that money on projects, on roads, whatever you choose to spend money on, we're dragging that fund, the reserve policy with us. And the more we say we're going to spend, the more that reserve keeps going up with it. And I think we should take a look at two things. One, to what set of expenditures do we want that fund balance to apply? Because right now it is applying to money that's attributable to capital projects as well. Do we want to tighten it to just be operating expenses of the village of Roscoe, exclusive of projects? And two, is 6 months what we want? It is strong. It is the envy of anyone, but it is I think it's unmatched in our area. I'm just going to give you really broad numbers right now because we are still, this is very much still a working process on this budget, but we have just now, as recently as yesterday, come up with our first estimate of our year-end fund balance being $5.6 million. These are estimates. These are estimates. I will tighten them up as we go. We are looking right now at projected expenditures next year of 9.17 million. The reserve policy would establish a fund balance of 4.586 million, 4,586,436. So what we look at is that we look at our end of year fund balance. So the balance on 12/31/22, which I just said is 5.6 million. You would deduct from that the gap between projected revenues for 2023 and expenditures in 2023. That gap right now is 2.1 million. In other words, right now it looks like our fund balance on 1/1/23 would be just shy of 3.5 million, 3,496,235. That is a full million below what our policy would be right now. Again, because we are proposing, almost $900,000 of residential street work. We're right now still proposing building a new garage for the PD. We're proposing a lot of money to be spent on capital projects. That drags the reserve requirement up with it. I'm making you all aware of that, asking if that is your intention and your wish to see it continue in that manner.
Well, I think we all realize that the federal fire hydrant of money is going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And secondly, tea leaves indicate that 2023, second half of 2024 may not be as revenue rich because of the economic conditions going on within the nation. I would personally I see your question as two parts. The length of the amount of time to cover their reserves, and then what do we put into that basket?
Exactly right.
So I still personally feel 6 months is the policy we should have. I do know that some communities have as little as 2 and others more. Okay, so, right, but, okay, I don't want to emulate them.
No, we do not.
So comfortable with 6 months. However, having one-time capital expenditures drive this doesn't make any sense. So we need to drill down and actually come to the conclusion as to what are the operating expenses over 6 months. And to do that, have to, I think, look at the trends, our salaries, all of our operating expenses, and make a best guess as to where those might be in another year. So I would personally like to carve out the capital projects because they're one-time things, but get a better handle on a projection as to what the operating expenses will be, and then keep 6 months of that, because there will be lean times. Christmas doesn't happen year in, year out.
Any other thoughts?
That's a lot of money to have in reserve.
It's a lot of money.
There's an awful lot we could do for the residents if we were to change that policy from 6 months to 3 months.
Do what?
From 6 months to 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
There's an awful lot. So there's a lot to think about. Definitely don't have to make this decision tonight, but there's an awful lot of improvements that we could do quicker if we did look at changing that policy from streets to whatever. There's just more that we could do, give back to the residents here that pay the taxes. So I think that that's something we all need to look at, but we also have to be good stewards of everything as well. Not saying being bad stewards, but I think that's a lot of money to have sitting there doing nothing.
Could have started by not taking the tax levy, the 5% increase, but
Steve, by all means, you
but-
can chime in on the tax levy.
no, this is a board conversation. But back to the length of time. I don't see a problem with spending to accomplish all of those capital projects that we have, but still keeping 6 months to cover expenses. I would rather have that then have to look at how to curtail services or how to curtail employees when the lean times come. And 6 months gives us that cushion,
So does 3 months.
twice as long as 6 months, obviously.
I get that. I get that part. But so does 3 months.
So I agree with, we need to narrow it down. What Carol's saying, we need to only take into account what it takes to run a village.
Yeah.
And my comfort number is 4,
Okay, well, that's good. That's cool.
because it's not gonna just stop. I think we would still get something in 4 months. We could still live a year almost probably.
Absolutely.
Just
Absolutely.
my opinion.
Oh, nothing wrong. That's what we're talking about is opinions right now.
That's negotiations.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I mean,
Well-
that's my number, I think, with 4. Like I said, it's not gonna just
Well,
stop.
that, you know, I get that part.
It's gonna, we'd still get something in. If we had 4, you're still getting something. I think we could almost do a year at that point, in my head. But again, I do want it streamlined. I don't think we should be covering capital projects and all that.
Oh, no, I
We
get
don't,
that.
we don't cover all of it. I don't want to,
But I mean, it's payroll, it's gas, it's
Right.
bullets, it's cars, it's
I hear what you're saying.
basics to keep the village running.
for example, just a singular example that happens every single year is that we still transfer $490,000 from the general fund to the capital fund just to cover the commitment you made, because that was money previously spent on garbage, right? So that, but that is money that goes out that is still, we're still adding that lump into
Exactly.
how our reserve policy is evaluated. Many years, we transfer more money from the general fund over to capital. So it, on a year by year, the amount that we put over to capital projects will vary. But it does.
I do like the thought of 4 months. They say I do.
So I think a task then that I'm hearing is probably and first is to come to a common understanding on operating expenses. So that's what we'll do, is look at what we feel. Steve and Ann and Joe and I probably will team up to identify what expenses should be applicable towards the fund balance policy. Obviously, the big ones are known: salary, benefit, insurance, debt obligations. There'll probably be some gray area in between where we're saying, is this an operating expense or is this not? Is this a luxury? And we'll try to fine tune those best we can. See what that number is, and then we can revisit the months if we have to. But maybe first, I'm hearing that there's a willingness from everyone to more narrowly construe
Oh, God, yes.
the fund, because right now it's just broadly the entire general fund, which includes every transfer out.
But we gotta be able to look at those numbers and then be able to figure out what we can do.
I agree with both Carol and Stacy in the fact that we got to narrow it down to we have enough money to run for 4 months with the lights on. We don't need to have that much in capital expenditures the entire time. So basically, what you just said, Scott, is narrow it down to keep the lights burning, but not to repave every street in town.
Okay.
Those are things I wanted to discuss now at board time, and
That's it. Anybody else got anything on new business? Old business, anybody got anything on our old business?
Oh, yes. Did the closing happen on the property?
Yes,
Okay.
we own the property and we have the deed, it's been recorded and.
We own that.
It's our property.
it's home to a very lovely temporary parking lot.
And
Yeah,
very well.
when we had our
Very well,
events,
right.
we actually owned the property at our Halloween events, so
Mhm.
that was good too.
A good event and it worked very well.
That was an outstanding.
Yes, it was.
We have
Kudos to
anything on
everyone that
capital
was
projects?
involved. What was that, Tony?
Capital projects, project review.
Well, this is are you talking about what we normally do the second meeting of every month? In
Right,
regards to Brandon bringing us back up to speed, because this is the first meeting.
yeah, I know.
You didn't do it at the last one? Brandon, are you on?
With the last one.
Oh, that's right, I was in DC. Brandon, are you on?
Yes, I am on.
Okay.
And I apologize, I might not have an update on a couple of the bigger design projects, but I can go through some of our active capital projects. I actually left my notes in the office, so I apologize. But I'll try to touch base on a couple of those. So first, the Main Street reconstruction project. Just within the past couple of weeks, we've been notified by ComEd. We're actually setting up a meeting to go over the utility relocation portion of that project. So that's going to take a lot of coordination, obviously, but we're starting to have those conversations. It sounds like ComEd does have a design done to relocate some of those, but there's some tweaks that are going to need to happen before we can finish up all of our design plans and things like that. We don't want to get too far without having an approved set of plans. And I apologize, I might, if it's okay, I'd like to maybe issue a memo to Scott for the Love and Willowbrook project updates. I do not have those, as I stated, I don't have those right now.
I don't think a lot's changed since the last time we spoke.
Yeah, unfortunately, I know I've been copied on some emails from our office working with IDOT, still trying to work through the approval processes, but primarily Love Road. But I do know that we have submitted the Willowbrook traffic impact analysis report, and that's in their court. But I will issue Scott a memo, and if he wants to distribute that to the board, that's probably will be the most accurate way to get that stuff across to you guys. To touch base on all of our capital projects that have been going on, I'll go ahead and start with the Public Works Building Addition project. Slowly moving, but the building is up. Most of the roof is completed. And actually the contractor will be pouring the cement floor tomorrow morning. That's at 7 a.m. So things are moving along, as I stated, slowly but surely. The Public Works parking lot project. I don't know if any of you guys have driven by, but all of that parking lot has been reconstructed, I will say. The new aggregate base has been placed. We have poured all of the curb on the project. And now what we are waiting on is the concrete approaches in front of the Public Works bays and also the salt shed. The plan currently is to begin to pour those on Thursday. We have to keep access open to a few of those bays. So I was working with Troy today to try to come up with a plan to relate to the contractor so that we aren't fully shut down as far as access, but concrete pour should be happening on Thursday. So here within the next probably week and a half to 2 weeks, we will be paving. The MFT project, the frontage road, the contractor completed the full depth reclamation process, which is the process of grinding up all of the existing material and injecting it with another material to harden it up. And they will be actually paving the new asphalt that goes on top of that road tomorrow morning. So contractor expects to probably not get that done in one day. It just kind of depends on how fast they're able to move and if they run into any hiccups out there. But paving is scheduled to happen on that project tomorrow. The Shepherd Hills sidewalk project is actually completely done. Contractor paved that, finalized all the sidewalk, the curb, and then paved the intersection last Friday. So if you haven't had a chance to drive by that project, by all means, please drive by. I think it turned out pretty great. And let's see, what else do we have? I think I relayed this, maybe not the last meeting, but the meeting before. Porter Park project that was completely finalized and closed out. Same with the residential streets project that was finalized and closed out. Class D patching. I believe that the second submittal for that was actually on this list of bills that was approved tonight. We are trying to get the contractor back to pave, I believe it was brought up in a board meeting before, the Hidden Creek subdivision. There was some damaged pavement along the roadway that a resident had reached out to some of the trustees. We had contacted the home builder who worked out there. We think some of the deterioration may have been advanced, I guess I should say made worse by the builder, but there's really no way of knowing that. The roads aren't in the greatest of conditions out there, but we do know, I've worked with Troy, we're going to do a roadway patch. The contractor has asked us to put together just a location map for them to get that done. Their schedule is pretty tight for the end of the year, but we think that we can get that addressed before asphalt plants close shop. And I believe that is it, unless I'm forgetting one. Again, I apologize. I didn't have my notes ready, so that was kind of all off the top of my head. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. You can call me on my cell phone.
Did a good job by memory there, Brandon. Very nice.
Well, you guys will have.
Anthony, you have any questions for me, Anthony?
No, none at all. I'm sure that Brandon has been, spot on with all of the things that he's been doing. We hadn't talked about some of these projects for the last couple of meetings, and I just wanted to make sure
That's
that
true.
we stay on track to let everyone know the great progress we've been making overall for making the village a lot better place to live and taking care of our obligations. That's all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, so nothing else under old business. Item 11, public comment. Oh, I'm sorry, Mike.
I think this is under old business. I'd just like to acknowledge everybody that was involved in Truck or Treat, from village employees, all the departments, police, public works, village hall, everybody involved. What an outstanding success that was. And looking forward to next year to be better. I don't know who was involved in ordering the weather for that day, but I think they should get that $250 bonus also.
Worked out pretty well.
I don't know who that was either.
I'd like the minutes to reflect what a wonderful job that
So
was.
believe it or not, I think on social media, someone did complain that it was too hot.
Imagine that.
If that doesn't,
Had to be someone in one of those big
if
costumes.
that doesn't sum
Maybe the
up,
Lion King.
if that doesn't sum up.
Why would
social
you
media.
allow that? That's for sure. And Sue, you did an awful lot of work on that. You did a very nice job.
Well, thank you, but that's what I was just gonna say.
You did a very nice job.
Thank you to the staff,
They did a great job.
and it really meant a lot to the community.
I think so too.
And
It
I
was the
think it
biggest
was,
turnout I've ever
It was an
seen.
exceptional day.
but the staff interacted with each other in such a kind way and with the community. I just was thrilled. I have another question. Culver's opened up today.
I believe so.
Can you just give us an update of how many more parking spots there are? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I cannot.
Brandon, do
It
you
did
know?
not, it does not net them. In fact, I think the answer might be 0. I'm not sure it netted them many more parking spaces, and that wasn't really the goal of it. Maybe 7. I don't know, Brandon. I have to look at it again. What it did was greatly lengthen
2 lanes.
the drive-through lane. And it allowed for great, right now, the drive-through lane used to immediately curl around
Yes.
the rear of the building. And now they're rerouted all the way to the back of the expanded parking, or the expanded paved area. So I know they're able to get more cars in their queue and get them off of the road. They've also been able to gather a little bit more spot between the menu board and the window. The order box in the window, which is hopefully going to allow them just that much more time to fulfill orders. So it used to be you ordered and then boom, you turn the corner and you're at the window right away, and there's no time to get those orders ready, and everyone's asked to pull off to the sides. So the hope is that it improves their efficiency in both measures.
Did we have to use a detention pond or retention?
We allowed for construction into a detention easement, correct?
I just noticed tonight on my way here,
But engineering wise, that's not going to be an issue on.
Oh, no, we,
one neighbor asked me about that, so they must
That
have
was
walked
one of the
that.
main reasons why we wanted Brandon involved in it. Yeah, so that's not going to be an issue.
Tonight I noticed when I drove by, if there would have been 3 more cars in the line, in the queue,
Mhm.
it would have been at the street.
We'll see. Yeah, right. He would. Which, by the way, since how we mentioned culverts in the road there, did we ever get our no parking signs?
we've had it for a while.
Oh,
paid for
I
them.
don't know. I don't think they're up.
two.
We paid
Two
for
are
the
up, but we paid
polls.
for-
We paid for the polls because they were on this month's or this week's bills.
oh, we'll circle back on that. Okay, all right. Item 11. Public comment. Once again, anyone remaining members of the public either present or logged into the meeting this evening wish to speak, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Does anyone on the floor wish to have public comment? Joe, do we have anyone logged in?
We do, but. not-
Okay, anyone who's logged in that would like to hit *6 and would like to do public comment, please do so we can see your hand raised. Do we have anyone, Joe? No? Okay, public comment going once, public comment going twice, public comment is now gone. Executive session. We do need to go into an executive session. Can I ask someone to make a motion to enter executive session for purpose of discussing personnel matters
And litigation.
So
and mediation
and litigation.
and litigation? Sorry.
So moved.
First by Justin Black, second by Michael Dunn. Okay, clerk call the roll, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes,
Petty, yes, King,
Yes.
Alco,
Yes.
Block.
Yes.
and where are we doing this?
My office. I left the door open, so. May I please have a motion to re-enter open session? First by Michael Dunn, can I, or, yeah, Michael Dunn. Can I have a second? Second by Stacy Malco. Clerk call the roll, please.
Dunn,
Yes.
Alco,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Petty, yes, Block,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Okay, there was no action taken in an executive session. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
First by Justin Black, second by Stacy, or by Anthony King. Clerk call the roll, please.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Petty, yes, Dunn,
Yes.
Block,
Yeah.
Malco,
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Not much on the next one, is there? Or didn't even look at it yet.
I roll right in quick.
I'm done.
We'll call the order.
Second time. Sorry.